their targets. Also, Fisnick Asllani prioritizing Barcelona. And finally, Inter Milan eyeing two Barcelona players as part of the Bastoni deal. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Boo, and today is the final day of my vacation. No, and so tomorrow I will be back home. So tomorrow, Monday, you will have podcast. So I hope to see as many of you there. Of course, this is not a podcast. This is just a short live to give you Barcelona news while I'm away from home. So unfortunately, I will not be reacting to your comments. But again, tomorrow podcast. So tomorrow I will be reacting to your comments live. So I hope to see as many of you there. Now, let's dive right into the news because we do have to talk about the Ronald Arojo tackle. Of course, we talked about this during yesterday's video where Ronald Arojo committed a pretty bad tackle against Phil Foden in Uruguay's friendly match against England. And well, the new news is that Foden has explained that Araujo actually apologized to him in person after the match. So that's good to hear. And of course, during yesterday's video, I posed a question because there was some debate on social media. Some people saying, these are the kind of mistakes that Araujo does all the time that end up costing us a Champions League. So I wanted to know what you guys thought. Did you guys think that, yes, this is yet another mistake that shows that Araujo has not learned his lesson, or is this just a mistake that can happen to everyone? And I was surprised by the amount of responses that were not arguing either. Instead, were arguing whether this was a red card or not. Someone even told me they didn't understand my analysis. How did I think this was a red? So let me do this. Do I really have to explain why this should be a red? You guys are seeing this, right? I'm not crazy. I mean, I understand in football, there's always calls that are like 50-50, could go either way, that people can debate for hours and hours. But this, I never thought I would have to explain this. This is not a red. You're telling me this is not a red. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news because Benfica are looking to block Barcelona from one of their targets, who's no other than Andreas Sheldrup. I hope I said that right. Probably not. But if you don't know about it, Andreas, we're just going to call him that because I cannot say his last name. We spoke about him several times in previous videos, but he is a 22-year-old winger currently plowing his straight at Benfica, kind of that profile that Barcelona are looking for, someone who can, is very good in 1v1 situations, who can dribble past his opponents. That's Sheldrup, someone that has been killing it in the Portuguese league. And even in the Champions League, he actually had a pretty impressive performance against us. And well, Barcelona even sent scouts to watch him not too long ago, a few weeks ago. And Barcelona even contacted his agent because he is on the list of possible reinforcements in case the Rashford deal does not go through. And well, Benfica, knowing that Barcelona had reached out to the agent of Andreas and had even sent scouts to watch him during the match, they have now reached out to the player to try to extend his contract until 2031. Now, of course, it's something that Benfica does all the time. When they hear there's interest in one of their players, they extend their contract, increasing the release clause, because that's what Benfica do. They're a selling club. They like to sign players on low and then sell them for huge amounts. Now, of course, whether Barcelona end up moving for Andreas or not is going to depend, of course, on whether Rashford is signed or not. And if he's not, Barcelona do want to sign Andreas, they're not going to do it if he does end up renewing his contract. Now, on to that next bit of news, because during yesterday's video, I read to you the statements of the agent of Fisnick Asllani, who confirmed that, yes, Barcelona had actually reached out to him. Now, of course, we've talked about Fisnick Asllani a lot in previous videos. He's a center forward currently at Hoffenheim. He's 23 years old. He is being nicknamed the new Robert Lewandowski. And he's someone that Barcelona have been tracking for quite some time. But yesterday, his agent confirmed that not only are Barcelona tracking him, but that the interest is legit, because Barcelona even reached out to Fisnick Asllani's agent. And well, now the new news is that Fisnick Asllani is prioritizing Barcelona. Barcelona is his number one destination. Seems that Aslani right now has an offer from Dortmund and from Ferenbache, but he has called his agent and told him, hey, doesn't matter who calls, my priority is Barcelona. So if Barcelona do decide to sign Fisnick, then of course he's going to choose Barcelona. Now, we'll see whether Barcelona move for Fisnick or not, but just know that he prioritizes coming to Barca, and Barca have been tracking him and have even reached out to his agent. Now, speaking of Rashford, since I did just mention his name a few moments ago when I was talking about Andreas Sheldrup, but ladies and gentlemen, there are currently two clubs tracking the situation of Marcus Rashford, who are no other than PSG and AC Milan. It looks like both clubs are tracking the situation of Rashford to see what's going to happen with him because they are interested in signing him. Of course, Rashford does have a loan with Barcelona until the end of the season. He has an option to buy worth 30 million euros. Barcelona want to keep Marcus Rashford, but they're not too in favor of paying those 30 million euros. But so far, Manchester United have said, sorry, we're not negotiating. You either pay the 30 million euros or you cannot have them. So given the uncertainty right now of whether Rashford will be staying or not, both PSG and AC Milan are monitoring the situation. If Barcelona do not end up keeping Marcus Rashford, it looks like those two clubs could move for the English attacker. Now, speaking of Manchester United, ladies and gentlemen, this is crazy, but guess who they're interested in now? Well, they are also interested in Ferran Torres. Ladies and gentlemen, ever since the news broke that Barcelona are open to hearing offers for Ferran Torres, and since Barcelona have not moved to renew their contract of Ferran Torres, which expires in the summer of 2027, there's been more and more clubs adding their names to the list of interested clubs in Ferran Torres. Of course, we talked about how Matteo Alemany, the sporting director of Atletico Madrid, is a huge fan of Ferran Torres. Also, we talked about how Arsenal are currently tracking the situation of Ferran. And well, now it seems that Manchester United are also tracking the situation of Ferran Torres. Looks like Ferran has a lot of interest in the Premier League. So please, Barca, let's make this happen. Now, of course, it's not going to depend really on Barca. It's going to depend on the player. So far, Barcelona have tried to offload him several times, and he's always said no. We'll see whether this time is different or whether Ferran Torres will eventually agree to leave. All right, let's end today's video with the news. Ladies and gentlemen, Inter Milan are eyeing two Barcelona players, as part of the Bastoni deal. Now, we've talked about Bastoni a lot these last few weeks because, as you know, he is Deco's favorite option to reinforce the center-back position. So far, Inter Milan had said no to the sale of Bastoni, but now they've changed their mind. They need to balance their books. They need to make a few sales, at least one big sale, maybe even two. And Alessandro Bastoni is on that list. And of course, we also talked about in a previous video that Inter Milan would be open to accepting players plus cash for Bastoni. And well, the new news now is that Inter Milan are actually interested in two Barcelona players that they could accept as part of the Bastoni deal. I'm not talking about the two players together. One, maybe the other, maybe two. But the two players that Inter Milan are eyeing are no other than Ferran Torres, whose contract expires in 2027, and Dani Olmo, whose contract expires in 2030. Looks like Inter Milan would accept either all cash for Bastoni or maybe Ferran plus some cash, maybe Olmo plus some cash. I don't know about both because I feel like both Ferran and Olmo, perhaps their value would end up exceeding what Bastoni's worth. I don't know, but just know that if Inter Milan were to accept swap deal, Ferran or Dani Olmo could be players. They would be players that Inter Milan would be happy with. Now, of course, most likely, I think Ferran Torres would be a bigger chance than Olmo. I don't see Olmo leaving with his contract expiring in 2030. Ferran, different deal because this summer he enters the final year of his contract. But again, it's all going to depend on the player. Anyways, that is all the news for this video. I did go live a few moments ago. If you haven't seen that video yet, make sure to check it out. Also, I did upload the video of my visit to the Estadio Johan Cruyff, so make sure to check it out. And hopefully, maybe Tuesday, I'll be uploading the video of my visit to the Spotify Camp Nou. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, guys.